Well, the Thunder made it difficult. Only playing with 8 players tonight, but in the end, when it came down to winning time, the Spurs prevailing on their home floor, and the second seed in the West gets their fourth win of the season over the West top seed. Nate Ryan alongside the Lone Star legend TJ Ford here to break things down. TJ, when it came down to it, obviously Oklahoma City played hard. They cut it down to a 4-point game with about 4 minutes to go, but then San Antonio closing things down the stretch.
Yeah, we was able to establish ourselves, and we was able to get that lead up to plus 20 points in the first half. So that kind of gave you some breathing room. But OKC, a well-coached team, you know, those guys was going to come out and play hard and play their style of basketball. And they gave a good performance tonight and made it really tough now, you know, to the end of the last 2 minutes when our guys was able to take over and make big plays.
And when San Antonio needed energy, who else do you think they went to? Keldon Johnson off the bench with his 30th career 20-plus point game off of the Pine. He had 13 at the midway point and providing the spark in the second half to close out Oklahoma City on a night when the Spurs really needed some juice.
No, he was excellent. In the first half, he brought a lot of energy. He was one of the main focal points off the bench, being productive, and he was a leader kind of to get us through this, you know, tough, I would say, kind of matchup of not knowing what to expect, and he played a brilliant performance off the bench.
And the Thunder were throwing a lot of smaller players at him. You could see Keldon was making a conceded effort to take these guys down low in the low block and try to work them into the post.
Yeah, I mean, with them being limited with their size and not having their starters, being able to attack the paint, having 56 points in the paint was a deciding factor of being able to punish them with their small size. And then on the defensive end, being able to play where they had multiple guys on the perimeter and making Wemby, taking him away from the basket. It took us a while to adjust to that, but we was able to lock down defensively in the fourth quarter, I would say.
And when it came down to it, San Antonio then gets a game back on Oklahoma City in the Western Conference standings. And Victor Wembanyama, another solid performance from him, another double-double. 22 points, 14 rebounds. Obviously, he had a couple of those blown alley-oop dunks there down in the post, but again, flexing his muscle when he needed to.
It's just amazing being able to see him do the things that typically you never see someone that size being able to do. But he was excellent being able to be running the floor, getting alley hoops. Obviously, he missed a couple of them, but he was able to make some down the stretch and really seal this victory for us.
A couple of fantastic finishes around the rim. There was that one where De'Aaron Fox threw him the alley-oop, and Victor went up and palmed it with one hand. It's almost like he's playing water polo at times with it down there.
Well, it's a couple of those. I think we both and everybody in the building got off their feet and obviously, you know, hit the back iron on a few of those alley-hoops that would have got the crowd really, really going. But for him to be able to have a good pace and have a good rhythm, and knowing the experience he was able to gain of when he could take over the game, even though he wasn't as, you know, dominant early on the game. But he had a segment here in that fourth quarter, him and Castle down the stretch, that really put this thing away for us.
Yeah, the closers tonight for San Antonio was Victor and Steph Castle. That's a big reason why San Antonio going home a winner. And going to break, that's Stephon Castle. Was questionable coming into the night, but this was to get the party started early. Speaking of palming things, got to get up to get down. Spurs win by 10. More postgame live after this. With the win tonight, the Spurs gaining ground on first place Oklahoma City, currently sitting 5 games back now of the top seed in the Western Conference and getting a little more separation now from the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets. Nuggets lost tonight. Rockets lost tonight. Nuggets have dropped 3 in a row, TJ Ford. And it's worth noting that in the month of February, the 2 toughest schedules, the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Hey, well, good luck to those guys rest of the way, right? But I just think our guys were able to come here and handle business. And I think we got a good stretch here to be able to separate ourselves a little bit more in the standings, and we're looking forward to see what the next few games look like before we go on All-Star break.
And the next couple games, obviously, you'd assume would be winnable ones with a possible skeleton crew and the Dallas Mavericks coming up tomorrow night. I'll tell you who was great tonight in the first half. That would be the Spurs rookie, the 20-year-old Carter Bryant. Tying a career high, 11 points in the first half, TJ, taking what the defense gave him.
Oh, he was awesome right there, being able to crash the board and get a putback dunk, and then just being able to catch and shoot a confident shot and knock it down. So he was really in a good rhythm. It was good minutes for him. He was getting a lot of opportunity. This entire January of being able to have confidence within the coach staff and give him an opportunity to play. And I think tonight he did an excellent job and probably had his best game from an offensive standpoint here for a Spur.
As a young player, seeing those shots go down, that does a lot for your confidence.
Oh, it does a lot. Major. And that's a good confidence for him going into next game where he gets another opportunity where I think he could play a lot of more minutes.
And a chance to build on it tomorrow against the Dallas Mavericks. De'Aaron Fox finishing with 15 points, 10 assists tonight. Doing a good job distributing the rock. Spurs win by 10. Continuing to put a bow on it after the break.
Like how there was no letdown against a shorthanded team tonight.
I think that we did what we had to do to get the win. I think there was a lot of things that could have been better, and it's good to see us finish the job. But, yeah, I think a lot of things that we'll continue to try to hold ourselves to our standard.
On a night like this against a team that's resting a bunch of guys, what are the challenges for you guys as a coaching staff and as a team?
I think that it's fair to typically have an expectation of teams just in terms of because you gain a rhythm of who they have, and obviously there's availability and changes sometimes of lineups and whatnot. But I think when you play a team as much as we have, we've played this team now 5 times in under 2 months, you're used to seeing patterns, whether that's personnel, plays, style of play. And when you have such a stark contrast to what you are used to, that's different. I guess that could be a challenge. But again, I think our challenge is continuously playing each golf course the same, no matter where we're playing.
Seeing Carter gain more and more confidence, and everything he does just about.
Yeah, and I think that's what's always fun when you have a young player. They're never mistake-free. So once they figure out that, then sometimes they're free to play with more effort and energy because the mistakes will be there, and they're going to get yelled at, and they're going to be held accountable, and they're going to continue to learn from them. But I think a lot of times for young guys, and it's a good trait because that means they care, but when they're trying to not make mistakes, they're trying to be perfect at times, I think you see instances where they don't trust their instincts. And most of the guys that get to this league have good instincts. And so it's rewarding to see a young man continue to grow incrementally in that way.
What did you think of what Luke gave you on the glass tonight?
Yeah, we needed all the possessions. We challenged them regarding the rebounding. That's obviously been something that we haven't always been on the plus side of, and he did a great job of, obviously, 9 offensive rebounds and creating extra possessions for us.
Next time you talk to the media, the trade deadline will be behind you finally. Will that be nice to have some finality to any of the questions that might be out there, to know what your team is?
I haven't given it much thought. Obviously, not that I'm ignorant to the trade deadline being here, but to that question in that way, I do think it's just a weird part of the year for everybody, regardless to what your personal situation is. I think everybody gets a little uneasy around this time because change can be hard, and sometimes it's expected and sometimes it's unexpected, and sometimes people expect one thing and it's totally different. We've seen that in this league every year numerous times. And so, I think hopefully, in my experience at least, the relationships and the people transcend the jerseys we wear or the organizations we work for. And, hopefully, anybody that doesn't feel that way, I hope they do get to experience that, because it's a heck of a league and a lot of really good organizations out here. So I understand the uneasiness.
Nate and TJ with you on Spurs Postgame Live. TJ, Mitch Johnson was asked Are you happy you avoided the letdown there with the 10-point win? And you could count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Mitch took a little bit of time answering the question before he finally came out and said, we did what we needed to do to get the win.
I mean, it's a lot to digest, right? When you looked at a team that's shorthanded and don't have majority of their star players that allow them to be elite, you kind of expect to have a blowout game, and you had an opportunity when you was up 22 points. So you're still playing against a hard-fought team that's well coached. So you kind of got to take both of them. And like he said at the end, the team found a way to do what they had to do to win, and you just move on to the next game and you accept the win and just you take it for what it's worth.
And the win is what matters in the standings. Now the Spurs will hop on a plane and head north to the Metroplex. Tomorrow night, coverage starting at 7 p.m. on Ken's 5. Texas two-step. The San Antonio Spurs and Cooper Flagg and the Dallas Mavericks. These two are billed as the future of this league. Tomorrow night, they're going to go at it. Dallas Mavericks, though, we don't really know who's going to be showing up for them tomorrow. Mavericks made a big trade today. They sent Anthony Davis, along with others, D'Angelo Russell, Jaden Hardy, to the Washington Wizards. A couple of those guys weren't really playing to begin with. They get Chris Middleton back, the former Spur Malachi Branham going back to the Mavericks. But you're not really sure who else could potentially be moved ahead of tomorrow's 2 p.m. deadline. So who do you really prepare for, I guess, TJ, around the trade deadline?
Well, I think tonight gave you an opportunity to see what it's like with a team's not at their full pace or full roster. So I think the expectations for tomorrow will be totally different than what it was tonight. So it gives you a good idea of his rotations, give a good idea what his players' mentality are. And I think he would probably have more of a tougher mentality on the guys of trying to lock in and not have as many careless turnovers in the second half and try to play Spurs basketball for 48 minutes.
Again, 2 p.m. Central Time is the trade deadline tomorrow. You ever been traded, TJ?
Yes, I have.
We're never going to trade you on Spurs Postgame Live. That's for sure. Spurs, 10-point victors tonight in round 5 between the Spurs and Thunder. Oklahoma City only brought 8. But it's the Spurs that get the 10-point win. Onward to tomorrow. It's 2 straight against the Dallas Mavericks. 1 in DFW, 1 back here in San Antonio on Saturday night. San Antonio inching closer to the top spot in the Western Conference, getting a little bit more separation. This has been a presentation of Spurs basketball.